Hey everybody, thank you so much for being here. Today we have a good one in store. I'm going to be talking a little bit about macros and essentially the trades that I saw during the macro time windows. So as I was doing my trading this morning, I was actually on the charts earlier and I noticed that if we have news at 8:30 a.m., we can actually find really high quality setups for the 8:50 to 9:10 macro. And then I'll be kind of talking a little bit more about like the 9:20 to 9:40 macro. And then of course the 9:50 to 10:10 macro, which is pretty awesome. I've actually been kind of diving deeper into these macros and seeing the setups form actually very nicely. So we're going to be talking about that today, and I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be on the charts how I would normally look at the charts. So what's going to be happening is the 15-minute time frame will be on the top left, the 5-minute time frame will be on the bottom left, and then the 1-minute time frame will be on the right. So we're going to be doing our charts like this today, and that's kind of what I look at when I'm trading and essentially what I'm looking for. So we're gonna get started here. I'm gonna start on the daily time frame. Perfect. And we'll do the full screen just until we get down to the 15-minute time frame. Then I'll be switching over to the 3 quadrants. Now, essentially we had a weekly high up here. I wanted to see that being reached. However, we'll get down into kind of what I was looking for this morning after the 8:30 a.m. news. We came down this morning into this daily order block right here, was unable to trade down into this daily fair value gap again. So I was really looking to see the market take out the Monday high and then last week's high, but we actually had weekly relative equal highs because we have last week's high right here, and then of course April 15th's high right here. And as you can see, they're pretty equal. And the fact that we didn't actually take out the high on Monday, I was looking for a trade down below this Monday low, potentially this Friday low, and then taking out this high right here. And we did in fact do that. We traded lower for the 8:30 a.m. news, traded down into that daily order block, taking out Friday's low. And then we had this kind of move higher, and I'll kind of show you more on the lower time frame. So let's drop down to the 1 hour. Essentially what I was looking for is we had relative equal highs here. So I was looking for that as my first objective. We came down again, taking out Friday's low and Monday's low right here. We traded down into Sunday's open, which I've kind of been starting to use for the first couple days of the week just to see where we're at. So we came down into this area, taking out that sell side liquidity. So that's kind of what led me to believe that we are going to want to go for buy side liquidity today. Really simple, kind of taking out that sell side liquidity, wanting to see higher prices on Tuesday into those relative equal highs. These are like the best days for me because I actually understand where I want to see the market go, and I have a clear direction on where it is going, because since we had like those really clean weekly relative equal highs, and then we have these really clean highs right here, you see these, how they're very, very equal. So I wanted to see that being taken out, and since we didn't actually take them out before or after that 8:30 a.m. news, that was also really awesome to see. Now let's drop down to the 15-minute, and this is where things get exciting. I'm actually going to switch over now into what I look for when I'm taking my trades. So again, we have the 15-minute up here, the 5-minute right here, and then the 1-minute right here. I'm going to be talking a little bit about macros today and essentially what I was looking at today. So we have the relative equal highs here. We came down, had that run at 8:30, right? Taking out that Monday's low, Friday's low, and then we kind of see some sort of retracement higher. So we have a break in market structure right here on the 1 minute time frame. We'll mark it out. And then we have this 1 minute fair value gap that I wanted to see being respected. Now, the cool thing about this one is we actually did trade down into it at 850. So this could have been a really clean setup for our 850 macro. Our stops, we could even put our stops just like at this consequent encroachment here of this 1 minute order block. We have our stops, and we could see the market wanted to trade higher into these relative equal highs before our stops. So that would be our 850 to 910 macro. We could even say, hey, I just want to have a quick, simple 20-point run. It came back down, retested this 1 minute fair value gap, and then we traded higher, taking out this high right here. Beautiful, right? Easy, simple, lovely. That was awesome to see. And it's awesome to see it play out from the 850 to 910 macro. Now the next macro would be the 920 to 940 macro. This one can be a little bit more complicated because we actually have the 930 open in the middle of it. So for me personally, I don't necessarily like trading before the 9:30 a.m. open because, as you've seen, like in the past, it can be really crazy for the first 15 minutes. But we did really like this setup here, so we can measure this OTE level right out there. I'm gonna delete this one. Again, we already have our drawn liquidity. So since we have our drawn liquidity, we're kind of just looking for entries to get into the market, and these are the entries I found during these macros. So I measured this low to this high, and I wanted to see it come down into this OTE level. Not only did I want it to come down into the OTE levels, we also had this kind of 5 minute order block right here. So again, when I'm looking at the charts, I'm kind of looking to see what the 15 minute, the 5 minute, and the 1 minute's doing, all kind of at once. And I saw we had this 5 minute order block right here, along with we didn't reach those relative equal highs yet, and we didn't reach that weekly relative equal high yet. We actually traded higher, taking out this high at 9:30, but then we came back down, taking out that 9:30 a.m. low, and trading into this 62% of the OTE levels, plus trading into that 5 minute order block. So right here was also a really nice entry to get in. We can even put our stops just below this low and then aim for that relative equal high level. And as you can see, the market did in fact respect that 5 minute order block very nicely. This was a very prime entry because it came down like and then shot back up. But we took out that 9:30 a.m. sell side liquidity and we traded into a discount, plus the DXY was going lower. And we had yet to reach our relative equal highs, so we got into this trade at a very decent price. Now, I should mention I didn't take any trades today because I'm still kind of working out the Top Step X platform. You cannot actually trade on TradingView. You have to trade on Top Step X's platform. So for me, now instead of taking trades on my TradingView, I have to switch over into my Top Step X. So it's a little bit of a learning curve for me. We're still gonna try it, but it is definitely different. So that is all right. It was just nice to see the market come back down into that area that we wanted it to, and then of course trade higher. And the cool thing is this happened between the 9:20 and 9:40 macro. So we actually took this trade at 9:32 a.m. So in between that 9:20 and 9:40 macro, we were able to capitalize on this run. And I noticed too with the macros, they're more of like a deliver price during this time frame. You could get in before, but it delivers price. So the 9:20 to 9:40 macro, beautiful. Let's delete this. And we'll delete this one as well. Perfect. So this is the 9:30 a.m. open. Now, I'll delete that too. Now it is 10 o'clock. So another macro that we can use is the 9:50 to 10:10 macro, which was something I was looking for. And here's where it kind of got interesting for me, because as I was tape reading, I was like, all right, we reached these relative equal highs. I'm looking for like a short kind of sell, right? We want to kind of pull back. We're looking for a short-term sell. Now, if we have this inversion 1 minute fair value gap right here. We took out the buy side liquidity. We wanted to see the market trade down lower. For these short-term reversal trades, I'm really only aiming for like a 20-point run. And as you can see, we did in fact trade up into this inversion 1 minute fair value gap at 9:52, and then price started to spool and we came down to our low at 10:07. So the 9:50 to 10:10 macro, we have that inversion fair value gap traded down lower. Why did I also like this sell and I kind of wanted to see it trade lower? Well, on the 15-minute time frame up here, I'm gonna delete this for a minute. This 15-minute candle right here was technically a fair value gap, because we didn't have this candle yet. So what I was aiming for was that fill of that candle, so then we'd have like a balanced candle. Whereas instead of just leaving a fair value gap, we wanted to see that market move down, potentially into the high of this previous candle. We did actually trade down into the high of the previous candle, just not the open. So we balanced it. So that's why I was liking that sell, because we took out buy side liquidity, we had an inversion fair value gap, and we wanted to see the market have a pullback. So we actually traded down into this candle, filling it so then it wouldn't leave a 15-minute fair value gap. Perfect. So, and the cool thing was that I found 3 trades before 10:10. So I think for me, especially after 8:30 a.m. news drivers, I'm going to be starting to allow myself to trade the 8:50 to 9:10 macro, even the 9:20 to 9:40 macro, and then the 9:50 to 10:10 macro. Because we found this really nice setup here. We found a couple buys up down here. And then we kind of just waited, because now we're waiting for that 10:20 to 10:40 macro. So let's delete this. Perfect. So on the 5-minute time frame here, we had this fair value gap, as you can see. And because we had those relative equal highs, I still wanted to see the market move higher, because we had the weekly relative equal highs. So even though this relative equal high was taken, I was expecting the market to run higher for these weekly relative equal highs. Perfect. So we actually came back down into this 5-minute fair value gap right here. And you could even use this 5-minute kind of order block right here for confluence. And essentially we saw the market trade back down into those OTE levels, a little bit deeper retracement. Plus this one, we actually had SMT. So these lows right here were higher. So we had a low here and then a higher low here. But on the ES, we actually dropped down lower. So we had a low and then a lower low here, taking out that sell side liquidity. So seeing that on the ES, I was able to trust that this trade doesn't have to trade any lower. Like this market doesn't have to go any lower, because we already went lower on the ES. So having that kind of SMT, I was like, all right. Again, we were waiting for the 10:20 macro. So we could have had our entry right here, or somewhere here when the market started to take off. But this is where the 10-20 macro started, and then look at that move higher. Crazy, right? So I'm really digging on the macros lately, so I'm very excited to see what the future brings. And then of course I wanted to wait for the 1050 to 1110 macro. Let's delete all of this. Since we took out this weekly high, I was done trading. I was just kind of watching the 1050 macro. Like, I didn't want to get into a trade. I was just watching to like see like what would happen. Since we already took out that weekly relative equal high, I was just kind of watching. Again, since we're already going higher, we don't want to be shorting the market, but we were just doing this kind of for fun now. So we have this kind of 15-minute order block right here, as you can see. So we came down into it, we're trading inside of it, totally fine. Now let's look for the 1050 macro. So if we were wanting to see the market move higher, where is it going to move higher off of? Well, we have this kind of inversion, 1 minute fair value gap right here. We traded back down into that 1 minute inversion fair value gap at 1055, and right here at 1053 after having that break of market structure. Right here, as you can see, we actually broke market structure. And the key here too is when we're doing inversion fair value gaps, I watch to see if it closes above. So when, you know, the market's kind of moving like this, we're still waiting. But once the market closed above right there on this candle right here, and we had a break in market structure right here, retest down onto this 1 minute fair value gap at 1053, and then we see the market deliver price back up into that weekly relative equal high level. So at, what time is that? 10:05, or sorry, at 11:09. So the 1050 macro to 1110 also had a really nice run on it. So pretty cool, pretty cool. I'm very excited seeing these macros play out and kind of understanding the markets a little bit more. Again, we didn't actually get into a trade this morning just because I'm still figuring out like the Top Step X platform, but I was watching the market to see these runs happen and watching to see like them happen during these macros. So moving forward, I'll definitely be looking more into the macros and essentially taking a trade to see price run during these macros. And just super excited. Let me know in the comments if you guys like this layout, if it was easier to understand, like looking at the 15-minute, 5-minute, and 1-minute time frames. And if you got something from this video, I'd really love to hear your comments and just connect with you guys again. So let me know. Do you trade the macros? What's your trading window? I'd love to know. So till next time, thank you guys so much for being here, and I will see you all soon. Bye for now.